Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depends where you are. Uh, Welcome to our next webinar. My name is Veljko Janjic and I am a CEO and co-founder of Bexel Consulting. And in this webinar, I will talk to you about integrated project management workflows in an open BIM environment. And when I say this, crucial for us are three things. One, ISO standards. And in our flagship product, Bexel Manager, we try always to implement ISO standards as much as possible. We also, for us, a very important collaboration with main organizations who are dealing with ISO standards related to BIM. So first of all, it's Building Smart, but it's also SAN Group 442. And the third thing is that since it's impossible to expect that all standards are going to be implemented in a relatively short period of time, APIs are also very important for us, and we have a kind of powerful API which allows users to easily access to the information, exchange data with other applications as well. So in this webinar, we'll have three parts. First will be just a theoretical background and basic information about Bexel Manager and our API. Then we will have several live demos where we will in a short period of time demonstrate what we believe is very important in terms of intelligent cost estimating and smart scheduling, and how, of course, you can later export and reuse that data in other applications if you want. And we will show you also some examples and some videos how actually workflows and integration with other applications uh, actually can work. So about us, this is, we have 15 years in software development. We are also having a consulting team. So we are at the moment present in, it's a bit old information, so around 40 countries, and have really implemented projects in, let's say, in 5 continents, and kind of have experience working in the last 10 years on a quite challenging projects in the world. We are Building Smart recently became multinational member. We are Autodesk partner, Graphisoft partner, and are also members of important consulting organizations in construction industry. FEDIC and EFCA are the most important ones. This is a current list of our partners and resellers around the world, and some of the projects where we have been, where our solution have been implemented. So I just had a question. Yes, if you cannot access to the entire webinar, yes, we will send to you later entire video of the presentation. So I know that we have attendees usually from North and South America. For them, it's still quite early. For our users in Australia and East Asia, it's quite late. For Europe, Middle East and Africa is more or less okay. So of course, yeah, we will send to all registered participants the entire presentation and accompanying videos and additional materials. So for us, it's also very important collaboration with educational institutions, and we are really proud to have a successful collaboration. Again, this is a bit old information, so at the moment we have collaboration with academic institutions and educational users from more than 130 countries, and we really support them. So on regular basis, uh, help them to develop curriculum. If there are any competitions, support them. And of course, all educational licenses for university staff, for students is free, fully free, and the only limitation is that they cannot be used in commercial projects. Here are list some of our clients we have from the Europe, Middle East, East Asia, America, South America, and so on. What we believe is, and this is a research done by World Economic Forum, and in that research, they actually concluded that what is going to be very important and is going to have extremely high impact at the end and is very likely to happen is integrated BIM. They ask experts about a lot of cool stuff such as drones, laser scanning, IoT, 3D printing, and so on. And the conclusion was that integrated BIM is really going to change construction industry. And when we are talking about integrated BIM, it's very important to mention that the story about this integrated BIM comes from also British standards, originally PAS 1192, and now it's transferred more or less in an ISO standard 19650. At the moment, parts 1 and 2 are fully published, and we are proud to be involved in this process. And at the moment, we are all together working on 2 additional parts, parts 3 and parts 5. More or less in my presentation today, you will see that we really try to have this in a core of our system. So this integrated BIM approach from early design stage to the facility maintenance stage, because otherwise the information is lost usually. It's not efficiently transferred. And that's one of the reasons why construction business, unfortunately, today is not very efficient. Essentially, it's one of the least efficient industries, and the lack of using of tools and lack of standards is something which is which unfortunately cause those inefficiencies. So about Bexel Manager, so we have 3D, 4D, 5D, and 6D integrated platform. We are IFC certified by Building Smarts, fully supports Open BIM, IFC, and of course also BCF file formats. We have also, I'll explain a bit later, have IFC export capability, and we will even extend this IFC export capability in the first quarter of the next year with our next major release. We are optimized for work and could deal with very large projects. Here it's mentioned 1 million elements, but it could be even over 2 million of elements. And of course, in that case, you need a really powerful machines. And we can deal with a lot of tasks and everything integrated in a 5D simulation. In terms of portfolio of our Bexel Manager products, we have Bexel Manager Lite, which is mostly for small design offices, then Bexel Engineer. We have our main product, Bexel Manager, and we'll have also system for facility maintenance, where we are also having a very good feedback with our users, so they could easily, basically it's additional simply module and the cloud-based application where you can integrate the data from Bexel Manager and later use it in a facility maintenance stage with the entire document management system and so on. And for especially large clients such as investor, public companies, general contractors, we have Bexel Manager Enterprise Solution, where everything could be customized, and they have dedicated support. So this is just briefly about our software. There are a lot of usually participants that already know about our product. So I'm just briefly going to mention that we have 3D BIM design engine, check engine, where you're not just checking conflicts and clashes, but also metadata like COBie, NetSpec, or let's say co-class. You verify if those standards, Uniclass, are adopted. Then you have all relationships among the elements if windows are hosted by walls and so on. Then we have 4D and 5D project management engine, and in today's demos I'm going to focus on this cost estimation and scheduling process and how it's smooth in Bexel Manager. And in the end we have a 6D facility maintenance engine. What is important to mention that we have a natively multimodal container, which means that we could handle, let's say we have examples with more than 200 IFC files within one project. They are coming from 10 different authoring tools, and that's why IFC is really very important. So we cannot rely on one solution. Some solutions are perfect for architectural design, some for MEP, some for landscaping, tunneling, and so on. So essentially this is why IFC is very important. Also, we support multi-classification environment. Basically, this is coming from ISO standards 12006 and part 2 and part 3, and that allows us to easily work with completely different classifications in the world. Let's say in Germany it's DIN based on DIN 276, in the UK it's Uniclass, in North America master format, Uniformat, Australia NetSpec, Sweden, Denmark, and now a lot of Nordic countries it's a co-class. So basically we can support all of those classifications, and we have also ability to use to have a multi-cost database. So I'm going to show you today also about some cost databases, how you can work with more than one cost database in your platform. We have intelligent BIM scheduling engine and cost engine, and very important, we support easily updates. So whenever you update IFC files and just results and all analysis will be updated. So immediately you can have a new quantity takeoffs, new cost analysis, new 4D, 5D simulations. So it is really something which is very important, because we all know that the updates are in construction and changes are the only constant thing. So we never saw a construction project without a lot of changes. We have IFC export capability, and not just that, we will even enhance this capability quite soon. I'm just going to briefly mention about this also. So project collaboration, we have a cloud-based platform, and it allows all stakeholders within, let's say, one company or project stakeholders to work in the same environment. And I just want to mention that always when we are talking about the cloud, we allow our users to store the data and to have the data on their servers. So, and it's not necessarily on our servers. We know that although we have ISO 27000 certificate, 27001, but we also know that it is important. Data protection is very important, and we always allow our users to store the data on their premises, and we just provide them our solution. So this is about some of representations of our common data environment. So it is partially cloud-based application, it's a desktop, we fully support IFC and BCF, and we could easily integrate, or are actually integrated with various applications such as Microsoft Project Primavera, could be SAP or Navision. We have a Power BI integration, reporting systems, and notification. This is more or less our vision, and you can put here now ISO 19650. So this is essentially a vision to have integrated project management in all stages. And because unfortunately construction at the moment is very diversified, and the flow of information is not so smooth. So this is about open interoperability, and as you can see, fortunately, all major players in software, all major software vendors in construction industry fully support IFC and VCF, and this is really uh, very important, and it allows all of us to easily collaborate and exchange data. So this is also the example I'm going to show you briefly later. That we support fully IFC, not just in terms of reading the model and the data, but we also support IFC4 capabilities for task quantifications and cost analysis. And this is one example how you can, let's say, send back the information to IFC format. The only challenge at the moment is that it's not supported by the other vendors, but we strongly believe that in the future this IFC4 capabilities for task management, 4D and 5D will be supported by the others as well. So this is basically a view how you can save clash detection to BCF or any other issues. So we support fully BCF, and in this case I think this is the example of integration with software called BIM Collab from Netherlands, and we have integrated in our API also add-in for collaboration with them. In our integrated BIM environment, you see, let's say here, you see a column, you see a smart BIM query, which easily identifies which cost items supposed to be attached here. You can fine-tune costs, classifications, resources. In this case, we have carpenters, common building labors, could be any material, any equipment. And when you isolate those elements, you see here entire, so it is not just BIM, a BIM-based quantity takeoff, but entire bill of quantities, in this case, according to uniform standard. But as you can see here, we can easily customize, and we have already implemented various cost standards in our system. So here is about just short, also theoretical part. So in this case is explanation. Basically, it's called model view definition for quantity takeoffs and cost and scheduling. And this is simply the explanation how Excel Manager export the data in IFC classification, how we export quantities. Of course, all elements are there with GUIDs. And so this is basically a scheme how we export data in an open IFC format. And we believe that in the future, this is going to be since this is open, it is ISO, it is developed by Building Smart, and this is going to be deliverable for quantity takeoffs and 4D and 5D analysis. And in this case, you see the similar, we are using IFC task group, in this case IFC work plan, where everything related to calendar, relationships, tasks is present, and what is really very crucial, all those tasks natively with this IFC rel assigns to process have relationship with the elements. So those costs are coming essentially from the element costs. They are not manually entered here because then you have really a good flow of information. What is also very unique with our system is the way how we generate the schedule. So basically we combine methodology with zones and phases, and today I'm going to show you what is the advantage of line of balance and flow line. approach. So we support Gantt charts, but also very important are line of balance charts, because essentially they allows to really create optimized scheduling, construction schedules. And just to mention here that we of course can import the data from Project Primavera, any other project management software, but what is very important that the optimized schedules could be directly generated uh, in Bexcel and later exported to Project and Primavera. I have another question here. Does Bexcel use base quantities from authoring? We could use both. So we could use base quantities from authoring software, and we believe, just maybe a bit, we could also analyze some of the quantities, but we believe that the authoring tools are, because they have entire semantics, they supposed to be responsible for accurate base quantities. And actually, this was my presentation in at the Building Smart last international conference. I was talking about this, that since authoring tools have semantics, quantity is supposed to be extracted from them. And we have our own Bexcel infrastructure authoring tool for tunnels. And we know that those quantities cannot be extracted from IFC later. So because due to very complex geometry, let's say of tunnels or any other complex geometry, it's much easier to be analyzed in authoring tool. So I hope this is the answer to your question. So this is an integrated platform where you can see the same columns. You see here the tasks where those columns are. You see them in line of balance. You see all entire, let's say, formwork, steel reinforcement, concrete work, semi-finished layers, and so on. And so entire structure here, you see a cash flow S-curve, and in this case, idealized, optimized resources. I think they are carpenters, rodmans, and cement finishers. Okay, so this is about the clash detection. So we support clash detection. There are a lot of applications today support this, so we can easily define rules and check if everything is according to those rules. And we support clearance, we support hard clashes, and we can also easily identify duplicates. So we believe it's good to have. It's not rocket science, but not just that. I have to mention that we also fully support data checks and code checking. And I'll show you some examples how in our API add-in applications could be added to check essentially the data, because although visualizations are very important, we entire this let's say a system called building information model, not building visualization. So key is information, although of course visualization is very important. So in this case, you see a quantity takeoffs when you just easily isolate the elements, and then the system could create and generate quantity takeoffs from Bexcel manager. And this case is just a sample of export in an Excel spreadsheet if you are not using BIM, and you visually see automatically generated images where the elements included in this calculation are essentially present in the project. This is a data. So how you check the data in this example, FIFA reference numbers and FIFA standards are used, and in our add-in we check the data, and as you can see different colors are present here based on the certain FIFA rules. In this case, just to show you, you will see later how essentially does it work. So you always can see planned versus actual, and in our 5D BIM engine, actual progress could immediately be transferred in an interim payment certificate, and it really helps in the construction process. A lot of disputes are avoided because everything is transparent and clear. We have also our 6D BIM management platform, and in this this presentation, I will not have time to focus on this, but just to mention that our software was used now on a lot of projects for public companies and private investors, and could be used for infrastructure projects as well. And we are also proud that this year we were finalists on the Copenhagen Airport, and we were the finalists in Building Smart Awards. And so we believe that this gives us let's say a reason to believe that that our solution is also very powerful for 6D. So about just shortly about our API. So basically, developers and users could easily customize our application. We have also IFC export capability, which is in next quarter will be full additionally extended. So basically with API you can access to all information you have in our system. So it could be clashes, could be schedules, maintenance activities, cost assignments, progress control data, and all basic information such as elements, properties, categories, families, and you can combine those informations and create really very cool analysis, such as I like to organize clashes per week of occurrence or construction site, or I'd like to see the elements which does not have properties but costs me more than 50 euros because I don't want to spend so much time enriching the model on, let's say, every single small valve. So you can combine those informations and create various data checks and of course geometry checks as well. And because you have all those information in Bexel Manager Common Data Environment. So here, basically, as I mentioned, ISO standards are crucial for us. And here are some of the applications, other solutions where you can easily access and exchange the data between Bexel Manager and those applications by using our API. And of course, very important, by using our API, you can customize your content according to any company, region, or country-specific standards. So you have two implementations of Bexel. One is API console, where you can directly in runtime add any code and do any checks. I'm going to show you how does it work a bit later. And you can use any, let's say, free version of Visual Studio, and you can develop your entire application based on our platform. So as I mentioned, you can do various checks, code checks, group by property values. You can also, with our API, export and import data to various platforms. I'm going to show you some examples how actually does it work. Today, this is a simple code script. So you can, of course, there is a information about our API available on our Bexel Manager website. And of course, if you need any support, you can directly contact our technical support team. So in this case, there are some implementations of our API. In this case, the customization, customized selection set generation. In this case, there are various code checking. I'm going to show you one example small bit later. This is also customized Power BI reports, which are automatically generated from Bexel Manager, and the content could be via our API customized. This is a integration where we integrated Graphisoft Archicad information and cost and schedule data with the Graphisoft Archicad and BIMX. This is example how you can track the progress. So you can track the progress on site by using Bexel Manager application, but also Trimble Connect and Autodesk 360 or any other cloud-based application could be used as well. Just to mention that we are also, since we are supporting universities, we have our Bexel Awards competition and project submissions for this competition, which are not necessarily related only to Bexel manager product, but more we would like to be focused on open BIM workflows. Submissions are until the 1st May of the next year. So now just go to the right live demos. So in this case, this is our sample project. So every user which downloads a trial version of our software, or any existing user, is supposed to have this demo. And I'm going to just explain in this demo how cost estimation is done. So basically, I'm going here to cost editor. As you can see, I can have plenty of databases. So let's say I'm opening now Italian Comune di Milano database. We strongly believe that those databases are very important and allows users to essentially, when they can customize this data, that allows users to customize analysis and everything else. Just a second. I opened a lot of applications here. Just try to close some of them. I know for some reason I have some issues with sharing the screen. Just hold on for a second. Okay. I hope now everything is okay. Okay, so now about the cost databases. So here I'm gonna show you one cost classification, which is, let's say in this case, uniformat. And what is very important, that we not just have, let's say for reinforcement steel, there are resources. What is very important for us are mappings and formulas. So by having this in our system, it allows us to easily define in the system which cost items are appropriate for certain elements in the BIM model, and how the system works. So the system works that, for example, I'm going to isolate any group, let's say in this case slab on grade walls. I can select applicable elements. Sorry, not just this one, but this one. And in this case, you can easily see those elements which are applicable to the certain cost database. But because the system knows which, this is a drill down, let's say, a query system, system knows based on those queries to which elements those cost items are applicable. And now in this case, I am going to choose any entire pile caps and foundation system with piles, and the system automatically tells me, based on those criteria, that those elements are applicable to those elements are applicable to my cost data. But on other side, I can go in the opposite way. I can filter, when I isolate the element in the building, I can filter to applicable elements in the cost database. So it is bi-directional link. And when I have this, the beauty is that I can immediately create and generate a new schedule. So now the system, based on those conditions, is doing auto assign and essentially connects the data from cost database with the elements. Now just go here. Okay, just I hope that I have Okay, and now I'm going to assign the items. And as you can see here, entire cost estimate, actually in 1035, which reminds me to speed up, is generated with all cost items. And this gives me, I can go in the history, I can go to the previous version, and I see that originally the costs were different. So this allows me to easily, when I update the model or update the cost database or add new elements or whatever, change the properties to see last version of the cost, and it is automatically generated. I can even show mappings here, which gives me the explanation that, let's say, reinforcement is essentially calculated volume multiplied by reinforcement. So it gives me, convince me that this calculation is made accurately. And what is also very important, that again, it's fully connected with the BIM model. So when I now choose any of those items, let's say cast in place columns, select those elements, I can see where those elements are in the model. So I'm convinced that I can check if I have not forget something and so on. But not just that, in the opposite way, let's say in this case, let's imagine that we have tendering packages, and the tendering packages are organized by, let's say, unit format. I can select superstructure and just choose here the option filter by element selection, and I see basically the cost of the elements in that tendering package. Or I can do the same for superstructure or for, let's say, services. So the idea is now I see entire quantity takeoff for services in this case. So this is something which is very important, and in this estimating process it gives us flexibility. So now when we finish the cost estimating process and have entire cost estimate, it's a good time to think about scheduling. So in Bexel, as I mentioned, we have two things. One is, let's say in this case, standard methodology. I can have a more adopted line of balance methodology, where we define which activity has to be finished before the following one. And when we do that, we define those methodologies, could be for various buildings, for tunnels, for hospitals, so I can customize easily those methodologies, and they are not specifically related to any particular project. I have also zones here, and in this case, I have just one zone is we created just for demo purposes here, 3 phases in this building, and we have also building levels basically, and could be of buildings or anything which is related to the space of this project. And when I have those, just can show you now those sample zones. They are of course just samples, so 3 parts of the building. And when we have those zones defined, we can automatically generate initial schedule. So in this case, I'm going to use one template where I will define that in this template, I will have 3 or 4 levels and methodology. And I will ask the system now to generate me completely new schedule based on Scratch. So I'm going to name this webinar. So this is webinar December 2019. I'm going to use the cost version I just assigned 5 minutes ago, and I can choose also any baseline schedule. In this case, it's not necessary. I can do that later if I want. So now you will see that the system generates a new schedule which is completely empty. Essentially, it has just one dummy task. So now I can set up here. We believe that working in a cycles, and that's one of the crucial things of line of balance, is that working in cycles is important. And in this case, we are going to define that one cycle in the project is 40 hours. Basically, it's essentially a standard working week, so no work on weekends. We could easily change this to 80 hours. We could change calendar, but let's say for the demo purposes, I'm going to stay with this 40 hours. Of course, those cycles depends on the type of the project. So it could be from a couple of days to, let's say, 1 month, depending on the size and complexity of the project. So I'm going to choose now Creation Wizard. I'm going to choose a template, line of balance template. And now the systems automatically generates entire schedule. And as you can see, entire schedule is generated. I'm going to expand this with all activities generated in a second. And now this schedule is not just Gantt chart. We can, just to mention again, we can import from Project Primavera. We could export the data to Project Primavera or any other application. But what is very important is that this could be automatically. So all relationships, everything is there. It's a very detailed system. Just go to isolate one element here, go to the task editor. So you have time, span, you can change calendars, everything like, let's say in Primavera, their relationships could be defined, rules, cost analysis. This is something which is automatically calculated. If you do it in Primavera, it will take a lot of time to do it manually. You have even resources. So I know that the estimated, based on estimated productivity, it's supposed that activity is supposed to require 129 working hours. So when I do that, I can also see any analysis, like in this case, task report. So I can see if this task schedule is okay for me. I can optimize these resources and so on. So, but essentially, I see all those information generated automatically. And just to explain what is, although it's initial and I did it in 1 second, line of balance is quite good. So line of balance, this is a location where certain activities are in the project, and I see here on a space level when those, or zone level, when those activities, of course they are with different colors presented, has to be performed in, let's say, building 1, a 3rd floor, phase 2, concrete topping supposed to be done, 3rd week of June, let's say. But what is also something very important in a Gantt chart, I cannot easily identify waste because Gantt charts are not tailored to construction projects. They are developed for everything else as well. In line of balance, I see here an empty space, and this essentially is a waste. There is, of course, we don't have so much time today, but there are plenty of things, plenty of reasons why line of balance, flow line planning is much more efficient at the end than the traditional one. But okay, let's say we see here a waste, and I'm going to show you how in a very short period of time you can essentially change this. And maybe just to go back here, I have 2 activities, water piping and electrical services, essentially run at the same time at the same location, and I don't want that. And I, on the other side, have here empty space. So nothing is done in the certain time. So just go to the logic view here. I'm going to identify how here they are. I'm going to slightly change these relationships. Okay, now I saw the question. I'm going to answer to that question just to see. Just now when I updated this in line of balance, you see, that's everything is changed. And now it's supposed to be slightly better Gantt chart. just to finish this, and I'm going to answer to the question. So task report now, and go here, and I see some resources. As you can see, even without a lot of optimizations and resource balancing, it's okay. It's not ideal, but it's not disaster. I'm just going to show you in some traditional examples, Gantt charts, which also look quite good. When you go to the certain level of detail, you realize that they are not balanced at all. Just to go to the, let's say, labor. So you see, they are much less balanced because simply in Gantt charts, it cannot be done quite easy. But let's go here to this demo, and just to show you another step in task reports, let's imagine that now for me this 29 is not acceptable because I have maximum number of carpenters 25. Just want to change this slightly. We have this here, the option of leveling, and I'm going to say that during entire project I just have 25 carpenters instead of 30. When I do that, I can analyze the schedule. It shows me where are the tasks which have more than 25. This is a warning system. And I can say, okay, apply. So resolve those issues. Close this. And as you see, automatically schedule is slightly extended. I can go to the task report. You will see that now more or less ideal resources are really balanced. Of course, you are always, now I can do this for glaziers and I will have more or less almost optimal resource leveling for this project. I can go also now in a line of balance and see that it looks very, very good. There are some zones when I have overlapping, we don't have now time, but this could be also, as I've shown you earlier, resolved. But more or less everything is really very smooth. And now when it's, let's say, finished, so just to remember, to remind you that I started with 0 information attached in this 5-10 minutes. So, and enrich the data with the cost and schedule. And now I would like to see this animation. Just want to zoom here and want maybe just to speed up a bit this animation. And I can see entire construction project process, and I see cost here, percentage of completeness, actual date. And not just that, we can just go to animation. I can set this animation active. We just develop these animations. Also, you just basically change the cameras. And later you can export this as an AVI file, put it on YouTube or send to your client and so on. So now just, okay, okay, maybe just to see the entire process. As you can see, and we have balanced resources, automatically generated schedule, and then later, if you are not satisfied with the line of balance, with strategy and everything, you can just go and change this methodology. So it's not necessarily to go in the schedule editor, but just to mention that this is really not just, let's say, the system which does not have relationships and is not having a powerful project management engine. So whenever I, for any reason, wants to fine tune something, just extend the task, or if I know that this is not going to be delivered before the first, for any reason, before the end of January, I can just change here this rule, and as you can see, all the tasks will be changed. So now just to try, can you some on which you, okay, it was the question, yes, I will show you some very large projects if you want. There are a lot of videos actually available on those last projects where it works. I'm going to show you now also one example how it works in directly in Bexcel Manager. But just now wanted to explain to you with add-ins several things. So first wanted to show you one example, which is a basic model checker. We check some properties. So this is now developed in one day by some sample, let's say, random software developer. And in this system, this just checks the properties. And when I do those property checks, I can immediately see those results here. So now just basic informations about API and add-in. So now this is uniformat classification exists or not. So this model is very good. So all uniformat classifications are attached here. But let's say I can go to area property and I can see that some elements have warning. And what is warning, content of this warning, and why this warning is raised is completely specified by the guy who developed this checker. So it's not necessarily the same, rules are not the same in the UK, Australia, and Singapore. And this is not just properties related, as I mentioned earlier, but it is fully customizable in a way that, let's say, I can check if the windows are hosted, but not just that, I can mention, can you show me windows not hosted by the walls, but executed in the next 3 months? Or windows which cost me more than 200 euros, which are, let's say, not hosted by the wall. So I can combine all those things in one system. But also I would like to show you one API console sample application, which now can send this schedule data to properties. Here we don't have those properties, cost and schedule, we have them in our engine, but we would like to send this back to, let's say, Autodesk, Revit or Archicad. And simply by this console, I'm going to show you how small the code is. I'm going to name this schedule. I'd like to export the data from webinar. And I can just run this code. He's now adding, enriching the model with additional properties, creating them, and yeah, I can. And I can see now that every element have, let's say, isolate this element. I see here finish date, start date, and actually the cost of that element. And for every element I have this information, and later I can send this back to, let's say, send those properties to BIM authoring tool. And of course, they are not just the data, finish, start, and so on. GUIDs are sent as well, so easily this could be imported in almost every authoring tool. Another approach is full IFC export. And so now I just wanted to show you think in terms of planned versus actual. How does it work, and show you on a live demo. So just to mention that in Bexcel you can easily compare any two versions of the schedule. So in this case it's a planned versus actual, and in a task reports you can see here a cost and cumulative cost, and I'll show you later this could be also shown in a Power BI. So here I see that it took me 1 month more, and 300,000 US dollars cost me more schedule. How it's done? Basically, you can create, we will need another session for this, but one way is by selection set. So we, from construction site, receive the information for every month what is done, and the system automatically calculates resources here. So you see so this activities and all details are calculated automatically. So you're not manually do that. And also with resources, you can enter actual number of working hours instead of planned, and you can change the price and so on. And that's how earned values could be generated automatically. So now just want to show you some couple of videos, short videos, how essentially does it work. And it was also a question with some real a real example of some of the large project, how this essentially is implemented. So okay, I'm going to show you some videos now. In this video you see data flow exchange. I'm going to speed up this a bit. So but essentially from Graphisoft, you save in IFC Archicad IFC file, and you see the same model in Bexel Manager. You have here all those properties defined and relationships and element queries and formulas. Of course, this has to be done once, and then you have automatically assigned. This is a sample building. This is essentially a headquarters of Graphisoft. So they gave us this model, and we just created this example of the flow of the data. So you isolate the elements. So now I don't want to spend so much time in construction planning and methodology, because I already mentioned this. So levels, this is just a bit larger project. So you see now later I'm going to show you also one video with even much larger project. So this is how methodology is defined, and then the process of automated generation of the schedule. So we already explained this, so I'm going to just briefly speed up this. So now I can see that animation. How does it work? Cash flow and everything. But what is now, I just want to give you example how you send back the data now to Archicad or to BIMX. So as you see now, the data is empty. So there are no information about this. So even without API, you just simply save it in Excel. And now in Bexel Manager, run the script code, which enrich properties with additional start, finish date, total cost, could be whatever. So could be number of carpenters working on that activity, could be material cost, could be list of all materials used in that activity. So you can define whatever you want. In this case, total cost is just as a sample. So it could be material, labor, and equipment cost. And now when the model is enriched with the properties, start, finish date, and so on, you are basically exporting this information. As I now just want to speed up this. You're exporting, you see where those activities are, but you are now exporting this and copying this to the table from Archicad. Now you import that. So this is, if you are using API, this would be even, let's say, faster, but even without this, in a 2 clicks, you can import the data. And that's the beauty of open BIM environment. So the applications could collaborate without specific additional development and so on. So you see all the elements have cost information. So although Archicad does not have 4D, 5D scheduling capability, you see entire schedule. So every element, gypsum, wallboard, when it is supposed to be installed and how much is going to cost. And not just that, in this case, you will see how the data is shown in Vmix. So I can use it on my tablet, on my mobile phone, the same information. Now I'm opening this in a Vmix, and when any element is, let's say this is a tablet, I can see a start, finish date, and total cost. So now I just want to show you another video, which is, I think, 2-minute video. Okay, just want to find it. It's not this one. So now in this video, you will see the integration and how essentially you can track the progress by using Trimble Connect. Just open this video. Oh no, this is the same one, just sorry. Just want to share a right screen. So in this video, you see the process, how essentially you collect the data on site by using Trimble Connect. So we have the animation. We create what is planned for the following week. We create the selection sets of those activities, and in this case we have BCF Manager, BIM, I think BIM Collab is used here. You send this on the portal, and now it's uploaded in Trimble Connect. So what you see now is essentially, if you are on the site, you see the elements which are based on Bexel Manager construction schedule planned for that week. Now you deselect certain elements. Let's say you are a bit late, and you can just, again, publish it on BCF. And we have the same selection set here. And now we are entering that this is actual progress. System automatically calculates all the quantities. And as you can see, there is a small delay in the schedule. So when I see here now S curve, it's going to be a bit different. So I don't know, 20,000 euros difference and so on. And now with, let's say, another, let's say our function exporting data to Power BI, we can see planned versus actual in Power BI. And we see exactly the same difference, 23,000 planned versus actual. So now we can publish this Power BI on the cloud, and here are the cloud-based results. So now let's say the owner of the company, general contractor or investor could see the results. And just to answer to this, that's the third question was about the large projects. So this is one example when it was used on a very large project. Just to, just to start this video. So you see now one football stadium for World Cup, actually next World Cup in Qatar. You see a 5D simulation. You will see now a Gantt chart with I think 15-20,000 tasks. So it is automatically generated, so don't be afraid that it is extremely difficult to do that. You see a quantity takeoffs. These are let's say how you create concrete quantity takeoffs based on a different marks defined in the project for each concrete work and so on. So you see a color-coded view. And while I'm showing you this video, I would like to thank everybody for attending this webinar. And if you have any questions, now is a perfect time to ask them. Also, just want to mention that we are going to send to you this presentation, and also accompanying videos might be on YouTube. And for everything else you need about this, you can directly contact our support if you have any further questions. And of course, for those one who are not using Bexel Manager at the moment, you can download, if you're interested, the trial version on our website, the Bexel Manager, and part trial request, and go to trial request part. You have a full version for 30 days of Bexel Manager. And also for all students and professors, you can go to, you can download university educational license. The only thing we need is to receive some sort of confirmation that you are really a student or a professor at the university. So just to check if there are any other questions. Bexel cannot work on a Mac operating system without sorry, now it just without Windows emulator. So we are basically Windows-based application. So our cloud-based solution, of course, can work, but we can. So you need Windows to be installed on Mac. If you have this, or if you are using virtual machines, then this could be. So they are users with Mac, but no on Mac operating systems. The question was also what data has to come from authoring software to be able to categorize the cost and schedule tasks. It's really fully customizable. So you can define in BIM execution plan that every element while you are designing in every BIM authoring tool needs to have, I don't know, uniformat, or needs to have master format or any other classification. Could be also that you simply recognize in, if it's, let's say, in Autodesk Revit or ArchiCAD, you can define, let's say, based on the certain category and family, that you will attach the certain cost items to it. So it's really fully flexible system. And in terms of tasks, it's really more or less, so just if you have major phases, you can define them as a just a phase, but everything which is related to which task these elements will belong and so on, more or less is not necessary, because you can do it essentially in Bexel Manager directly. When you make next international conference Bexel Manager, okay. We will have for our partners and users in spring our next conference, but we will we don't have exact location and the time at the moment. So you can expect in May that our conference for partners, and of course over there real project demonstrations will be made. There was a question. Yes, can we export to Synchro? Yes, we can. We can export also simulation to Synchro. I don't know if we can import, but we believe in the future that all platforms will use the same open IFC standard. Let me just go. Is it possible to export to IFC? Yes, as I mentioned, it is possible to export to IFC, and in the next version, it will be possible to have really full export to with all details. And in the IFC format, where you can choose two options, you will basically have. One is to have it based on IFC schema I presented to you in the beginning. The second one is for all softwares which does not support IFC schema for tasks and the quantity takeoffs and cost. You can simply add this as a properties. And so you will have IFC4 file which combines, let's say, 100 original IFC files, but also additional properties for costs and tasks and quantities attached as simply not attached, but represented as a properties of the elements. Okay, if there are minimal requirements for metadata, no, essentially we are basically reading IFC properties, and they are fully in our system, and of course then later you can enrich the model in Bexel Manager. So now it has a direct link, live connection. Okay, the key, let's say we will need more time to answer to this question, but a live connection, usually use cases are for complex project management not very good. So let's say to have a live direct connection while I'm, let's say, removing the elements, and you want at the same time to enter the progress on the schedule, it could be a bit tricky. So that's why we believe that it's supposed to be, let's say, on a, let's say, data could be on the cloud, but the updates more in a federated approach, because otherwise it's really very tricky to, if you're just modeling, of course, then direct live connections could be, because somebody is working on one part and another one on another part of the model. But if you have really a very complex system at schedule, cost, actual productivities, resources, and the models, everything could be changed at the same time, it could be a bit tricky. So that's why we believe that this has to be solved on the process level. So I hope that I answered to all your questions. Of course, feel free to contact us directly anytime in the future. So thank you very much for attending this webinar, and hopefully we'll have opportunity to show you quite soon new improvements. Have a nice holidays. Bye-bye.